Welcome back to the Pig Trail Show. As always, we have our Hoops insider, Kevin McPherson, joining us. Kevin, it was a big week for the Hogs. They beat Kentucky, but then struggled against Mississippi State at home. Let's start off by talking about that Kentucky win. I know for Hog fans, it feels like forever ago now, but hey, that did happen this past week too. There was some good in the week for the Hogs.
No doubt it was Arkansas's second quad one win of the season, both now. The other one against San Diego State all the way back in November in Maui. Both wins away from home on those quad one wins. So I think that adds a little bit more value to those than a quad win at home. So I don't think all quad wins are exactly equal. I think it helps your resume a little bit. In fact, we knew Arkansas coming into last weekend before struggled to beat South Carolina on the road for the first road win. Arkansas hadn't won on the road. Now two back-to-back road wins, counting that Kentucky game. I mentioned the quad one value, but Arkansas all of a sudden, when you add in the 3-1 record in neutral site games, Arkansas all of a sudden at that point is 5-6 in games played away from Bud Walton Arena. So your resume gets strengthened, and that's why Arkansas, after the win over Kentucky, it wasn't just that, other things going on around college basketball, but according to ESPN's Joe Lunardi, that game moved Arkansas off the bubble as a last 11 seed all the way to a number 8 seed in projection. We'll see what happens after Mississippi State. I'm going to talk about that game a little bit, Courtney, but look, even with that loss at home yesterday to a top 50 net rated team, Arkansas's analytics are still really strong. Still number 23 in net ranking. Kim Palm, number 23. ESPN BPI has them in the top 20, I think at number 18. So they're in Sagarin at number 24. So they're really still really strong in the analytics. We'll see when the next bracketology projections come out. Arkansas may not slip a whole lot, maybe a 10 seed, which is getting close to that bubble line again. But Arkansas's got plenty of opportunities. When you look ahead with these 6 remaining games, 3 at home and 3 on the road, all 3 on the road are quad one. It starts with Texas A&M on Wednesday. But going back to Mississippi State, I really thought this was a Bulldogs team ranked with the 4th best defense in the country. And you saw that play out. Arkansas really struggled. What I was impressed with was how Mississippi State blitzed Arkansas's primary ball handlers who like to get downhill. Early in possessions, just blitzed them and made them get off the ball. So they couldn't get in their downhill attack. Anthony Black, Devo Davis, Ricky Council. And so they had to pass to a Mitchell twin, and the Mitchell twins had to move out further from the basket to take those relief passes where they're not going to shoot. So, you force Arkansas's offense to really run clock, and then they have to settle for threes like we've seen them struggle doing. Arkansas took 18 threes yesterday, not a formula for winning. So the Hogs were 30 plus percent field goal percentage in the first half. Much better job of reducing 3 attempts. They were over 50% in the second half, but what happened? They fell behind by 16 points. And Mississippi State, frankly, one of the worst shooting teams in the country when you look at 2s, 3s, and free throws, put on a clinic in the first half. Arkansas was a little better the second half, but when you fall down 16 points, now it's an uphill climb. You've got to salute Arkansas. They got within 3 with over a minute left. Devo Davis scoring in a reverse layup in transition. Not one of his better games, but he did get Arkansas down to 3. But then Mississippi State in the last minute, 13 seconds, Courtney, 2 of 3 from the field, 6 of 6 at the free throw line, just blowing out their season efficiency coming into this game. And so it goes to show you can't take a team lightly. I don't think Arkansas took them lightly as a defensive team, but they certainly it seemed to me like they got too many uncontested looks as well. They ran a lot of curl cuts and did some interesting things with their guards and bigs, and they had those quick twitch guards where Arkansas struggles with that. Arkansas's positional size and athleticism is great, but they struggle with quickness. The only other thing we need to mention, and this is a big one, Nick Smith Jr. is back in the fold, back on the court, made his debut. We'll call it an SEC debut because it was his first SEC game after missing 13 consecutive games. Last time he had played was in mid-December. And you know what? He was only 2 of 7 from the field, played 17 minutes, was a box score +3, so he had a positive impact when he was in, played most of his minutes in the second half. But 2 of 7 from the field, 1 of 4 from 3, had 5 points, a rebound, and assist. But I thought his energy was really, really good. I thought he helped Arkansas get better defensively, guarding those quicker guards. Arkansas was a little bit better in the second half defensively. I thought he was good in transition, giving the ball up and moving the ball around both in transition and half court. And his shot just wasn't falling for him, but that's to be expected. He got some good looks. Love his energy. I think this guy immediately makes Arkansas better once he's back in a comfort zone. So I use the word immediately. When does that happen? You didn't expect it to happen in game one, but maybe the
No.
next time out. I want to get your thoughts. What did you think watching that game yesterday?
Yeah, honestly, I thought that it was kind of weirdly. I knew it was going to be a trap game for Arkansas. I've been saying that all week long. I was like, look, don't take Mississippi State lightly. Like you said, I don't think they did, but Mississippi State is a team that has been on a hot streak right now. And it's kind of like when you go up against a team that says, okay, we know what people are saying about us and we know what people are kind of thinking about us going into Bud Walton Arena. No one said, hey, it's going to be easy to beat Arkansas on their home court, but Mississippi State knew that. And I think they were kind of ready for it. I mean, I just feel like they were a team that had the momentum going into Bud Walton Arena and they looked really good. They're also coached really well. Chris Jans, I mean, we saw his coaching last year in the NCAA tournament with New Mexico State. He coached against Arkansas. We kind of knew going into this what they were facing. And I think a lot of Arkansas fans forget, as much as Nick Smith Jr. is great, he's fabulous basketball player. That was his first game back, his first appearance. It is hard to go into a game after you haven't played in months, haven't played since December, and go in a game and make an impact and put up 30 points or something. You're just not going to see that from really anybody. I don't care how good you are. You have to kind of gel and get back into the rotation and get back into the lineup. And that's kind of what Musselman talked about a little bit after the game too, Kevin.
Yeah, Anthony Black put up numbers, 23 points, shot well, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 or 4 steals. He did have several turnovers. But he was the one guy. Arkansas couldn't afford to have its three-headed guard attack completely shut down, or only one guy step up. And Ricky Council and Devo Davis really struggled shooting the ball. Ricky got to the free throw line and made 11 of 13. So he did finish with 13 points. That reverse dunk late in the game when Arkansas was battling back in, getting it within 2-possession game, and finally got it down to 3. I mentioned that earlier. Arkansas's game plan, I mentioned they took too many threes. I believe that. But they did attack and they did get to the free throw line. This is a game where they actually shot 10 more free throws than Mississippi State. So you've got to figure out ways to attack. The problem was, you mentioned last year in a Chris Jans coach team, Arkansas won that game by 5 points, 53-48. And you kind of envisioned a low scoring game like that when you looked at the stats for Mississippi State. The problem is, if you'd have told me it was the final score is going to be 70-64 before going into it, I'm thinking Arkansas wins a close game because it's more in the scoring range of where Arkansas is more comfortable.
Yeah.
A little bit below its average, but better than where Mississippi State is. And Mississippi State just shot the ball too well, and I really credit the game plan. I thought they, on both ends of the court, their matchups were great. This was a team that had length and quickness. Their frontline guys were solid, and the Mitchell twins, one of the Mackay fouls out early, and they did what they could. They weren't always awful. I mean, McKells has been a beast defensively.
Yeah.
But I just thought this was a game when you look at every statistic other than the free throw line and Arkansas making 8 more, just about everything else, Courtney, Mississippi State won. And the 2 biggest stats that stood out to me were points in the paint. The Dogs were +8, and then points off turnovers +7. And those are the points in the paint have been almost equal in most games for Arkansas, or Arkansas wins that. They're -8 at home in that. Again, a lot of that was that scheming to keep Arkansas's drivers from getting in the paint and finishing, and they did a great job of that. The other part on the turnovers, we've seen this before with Arkansas. It seems like they get better. They did against Kentucky and some other games. And then in this game, the turnovers were almost even, but it's the scoring off of them.
Yeah.
And -7 there playing at home was a big deal. So anyway, that was Mississippi State. Again, it didn't crush Arkansas's resume.
No.
And certainly the Razorbacks with 6 more games to go, 3 at home, 3 on the road, can position themselves really nicely for an NCAA tournament bid in year 3, the 3rd consecutive year in Musselman's 4th season at Arkansas.
Yeah, I like that it's positive. There's the positive spin on it is that, look, they can still finish out this year strong. They have Texas A&M coming up next week. They go to Texas A&M for that game, and then they have Florida at home next Saturday. I think they definitely can get back on track with those two games coming up next week. But Kevin, let's switch over real briefly because we got to talk about some Hogs recruiting as well. We're going to talk about three guys, two 2024 targets for the Hogs, Trenton Flowers and Marcus Adams Jr., and then a 2025 recruit in Terrion Burgess. What's the updates on those guys?
Well, Trenton Flowers is planning an official visit March 3rd to the 5th. So just coming up, just a few weeks out. That's the Saturday, the 4th, that Arkansas hosts Kentucky in the regular season finale at Bud Walton Arena. He is class of 2024, 6'8", top 25 national player, so a 5-star. And Arkansas has been on his top 5 list. The interesting thing here is Arkansas doesn't typically bring in players in their junior season for those junior year official visits, even though the NCAA a few years ago started allowing that. They typically don't do that, but Trenton Flowers is considering a reclass to 2023.
Okay.
Very interesting. Arkansas, we know, has already signed in the early period 2 5-stars. Bayfall, the big man, Layden Blocker, the guard. This is another 5-star, and he's looking at that reclass. Don't know if he's going to go through with that, but he's strongly considering it. He's already visited Louisville, Creighton, North Carolina. In addition to Arkansas, he still plans to visit Alabama. Those were teams on his Final 5 list. He's going to throw in a visit to Kansas, who was not on his top 5 list, but apparently he still has some interest in Kansas. So that's what it looks like with Trenton Flowers. Marcus Adams Jr. is a stock riser, man. This guy's a 4-star, but I think he's really climbing the charts in terms of national recruiting attention. He already had a really good list of offers, but they're getting even better. And he taught when I interviewed him, and I put a story out. It's at both Pig Trail Nation on KNWA site and hogville.net. But he talked about his awareness of Arkansas is basically Anthony Black. And I think about that. We know Anthony Black became a 5-star, but he was ranked outside the top 100. He was a late bloomer, a chart climber in his last year. And he was mostly a football recruit before blowing up on the basketball scene and becoming a McDonald's All-American. Now a projected lottery pick, Anthony Black. So Marcus Adams Jr., I'm not saying that's where he's headed, but he's a guy that's kind of a late bloomer when you look at the rankings and recruiting. Yeah. But 6'8", small forward wing, averaging 32 points and 14 rebounds out in California. And he had his top 5 list out, and then on a last week on the same day, Arkansas, Indiana, and Kansas offered him. And when I talked to him, he said, this changes things for me. I will be looking at Arkansas. He's very interested. We'll see if they get a visit out of him down the road. But here's a guy I mentioned, 32 points, 14 rebounds a game. And he had a game a couple of weeks ago, Courtney, 51 points, 21 rebounds, 7 assists, 6 steals, and 5 blocks.
Wow.
One game. So that's a couple of weeks for a lot of good players. And then we'll mention Terrion Burgess. He's been to campus several times to attend Arkansas games this year already.
Yeah.
Next Saturday, when Arkansas returns home to host Florida, he will be in the house at Bud Walton Arena. 6'9" wing out of Benton, Arkansas, down here in Central Arkansas. 247 Sports has him rated as the number 17 player in that class of 2025. And this is a tall, I think he's still growing. He may push 6'10 or 6'11 before it's over. He's just a sophomore, and he's got skill, athleticism. He lives in the gym. He works to get better, and he's added all kinds of craft in his mid-range game, and he can knock down the 3. Terrion Burgess is going to be a fun player to watch as he continues to grow.
Nice. Well, and we're also going to talk about the Pro Hogs as well. We got a couple of shout outs to end the show with today. Isaiah Joe, we got to talk about him. And I was impressed with Jalen Williams. I mean, come on, taking charges from the NBA's all-time leading scorer and LeBron James. That was pretty big. He was all over social media for doing that this week as well. Your thoughts on both of those guys, Kevin?
Well, let's think about it. Tuesday, that was the night LeBron gets his record, right? And that's incredible. But Oklahoma City won the game in LA, 133-130. Jalen Williams, you mentioned, he took 2 charges in that game. He had a career high 14 points, a career high 7 assists, 7 rebounds, I think he had a couple of steals in there, and then he had the 2 charges that he took, and he finished with a box plus 2. Isaiah Joe, 15 points, hits 5 of 8 from 3. His 3, the game was tied 106 all in the fourth quarter. His 3 was assisted by Jalen Williams that broke that 106 all tie and started a 12-0 run that put that game away. In that 12-0 run, Joe hits another 3 that Jalen Williams also assisted on. And then Isaiah had an offensive rebound and assist himself. So that was a big run to close out on the Lakers. Congrats to LBJ, but you lost the game, pal. As Isaiah Joe and Jalen Williams had both scoring in double figures and putting up numbers. Now look, Isaiah Joe turns around and as Oklahoma City Thunder defeated Portland Trailblazers on the road on Friday night.
Nice.
He was 4-4 from three. So he's been shooting great from three all year, but that game and that night has now put him at the top of the NBA in three-point field goal percentage. He's number one in the NBA at 45.8%. His made threes per 36 minutes are second in the NBA, only to Steph Curry.
Wow.
Steph Curry averages 5.1 made threes per 36 minutes. Isaiah Joe's 4.9. So just 2 decimal points away from being the greatest shooter of all time. He's right there. His net rating, offensive rating, defensive rating is 4th in the NBA. The Joker, the 2-time reigning MVP, is number 1. Isaiah Joe's number 4 there. And Isaiah Joe's also number 1 in the NBA in box plus minus rating per 48 minutes. Number 1, and the Joker, again, 2-time reigning MVP, is number 2. So Isaiah Joe is at the top of the NBA in several meaningful categories. And I'm going to mention one more Jalen Williams because you brought up the charges.
Yeah.
His 13 charges. He's only played in like 23 games. It's insane. He has 13 charges, and they're the 6th most in the NBA. And I mean, the guys ahead of him are guys that are playing. So when you look at his per 48-minute charges, he's number 1 in the league. Drawn charges, Jalen Williams is, and it's not even close. I mean, that's what it was last year as a senior. He not only led the NCAA, they said the amount of charges he took was uncharted, almost like never before. Whoever led previous years never took him like he did at the rate he did. So he's translating that now to the next level as a rookie. It's a big deal, and he's beginning to start games. You know, that win against the Lakers and that big performance, he played off the bench against Portland the other night. I mentioned Isaiah Joe going 4-4 from 3, but Jalen Williams had 11 points, another double-figure scoring game for him back-to-back last week as he continues to get better. And by the way, he's shooting 50% from 3. Ooh. It's a small sample size, but that's what's allowing him to be effective right now. Teams are leaving him open. They're afraid to push up and guard him because he's such a great passer outside. So they're sagging off, playing off of him to play those passing lanes and clog it, and he's making them pay. So it makes him more effective as a player when he can knock down some shots.
Yeah, and Kevin, it's funny to hear you say those stats about Jalen taking charges in the NBA, because I remember earlier on last season, people were like, hey, he's not going to be able to translate that in the pros, and he's doing it. He's proven those people wrong that, hey, the Jalen Williams charge tracker is still alive and well in the NBA. So
he's going to be a really good NBA player because of how many things he can do and the way the game is played now. Because he can play away facing. When he's inside, he's a non-traditional rim protector. Most guys we talk about rim protection is blocking shots. Daniel Gafford, who, by the way, is one of the best defenders at the rim in the NBA and second in effective field goal shooting for the Wizards. He's back in the starting lineup, but has been for a while and playing really well. But Jalen Williams is a non-traditional rim protector. And I've talked about Jokic, the Joker. You talk about Draymond Green, who's smaller for Golden State. But you look at frontline pieces that are great passers. Jalen Williams is in that conversation already as a rookie. It's not just that he can get some assists. It's how he sees things develop. So Jalen Williams is off and running as a all-around guy. He's still got to improve, of course, but he's already doing things that a lot of bigs can't do at that level.
Lots of improvement that we can see from him moving forward for sure, but love to see what he's doing right now in the league. Thanks so much for joining us, Kevin. As always on the show, we'll have much more Pig Trail coming up after the break.